represent a number of plaintiffs. They are residents in the Camp Ravine Road area.
Video
Your Honor,
taken
heard
since the last
testimony
time
in
we
this
were in court?
case
Yes.
on August the 24th, 2023. The respondents, Ms. Deborah Hawkins and Ms. Sandra Marie Hawkins, are the owners of numerous dogs. There was testimony at the previous hearing by Mrs. Hawkins, one of the ladies who were respondents, that there were between 12 and 15 dogs on the property. Your Honor made findings at that time that they are in violation of subdivision restrictive covenants that prevent commercial activity on the property, as well as dogs in excess of 2 dogs for pets. There was testimony that they were having a breeding operation on the property. We heard testimony from the county codes director, Mr. Darnell, who advised that they have never applied for a special exception to be properly zoned for that activity on the property. You heard some testimony from the residents about the breach of the covenant of quiet enjoyment and the barking that was taking place at all times of the day. And Your Honor issued a ruling that gave them 30 days to take corrective action. And I'm paraphrasing, but Your Honor said, I don't really know or care what you do with the dogs, but you can't have the dogs on the property. You're gonna either have to get rid of the dogs or bring them inside or something, because it's causing a disturbance to the neighbors. We filed this motion for contempt on October the 23rd, more than 30 days after the time for them to comply, alleging that they have breached that order, violated that order. They have not complied. As an officer of the court, I submit that I've had conversations with counsel who advised that there were approximately 15 adult dogs on the property. The representation that's been made to me is that there are now 3 adult dogs on the property, that they've gotten rid of 12 adult dogs. But I was also told that there were approximately 30 puppies on the property. And at the time of our conversation, the representation was made to me that they had gotten rid of all the puppies except for 12 puppies on the property. And I'm told that the definition of a puppy, or at least the way they construe a puppy, is a dog that's 2 years or less in age. That's a pretty good sized dog, can be. And so that means that at the time that Your Honor entered this order, there were about 45 dogs on this property. I don't know how many dogs are on the property now, but I guess we'll hear some testimony, and Your Honor will have to assess the credibility of the witnesses. But there's still way too many dogs on this property. And I have subpoenaed the animal control officer, who will testify that he made a visit to the property within the last month. And at that time, he believed there to be approximately 30 dogs still on the property. And so you'll hear that testimony in this hearing. I don't know what the adequate solution to this is. It's a difficult decision for the court, but our clients are entitled to have these rules enforced. I have filed a motion for contempt, asking that the respondents be held in criminal contempt. I've given notice of that. I think Your Honor has the right to do that. I also think that Your Honor could hold them in civil contempt by giving them a deadline to do certain things, and then having them purge their contempt if they do it by a certain deadline. In addition to that, I filed a motion with the court asking the court to order that the dogs be confiscated by animal control, which Your Honor has the right to do. It's not fair. It's also not fair to these animals that are being unfairly housed and pinned on this property for this breeding business to occur. And so we have testimony. We have a number of residents, some of whom are not even plaintiffs to this, petitioners in this case, who live next door to these persons, who are willing to come here today and testify about what they've seen and heard. We'll be as expeditious about it as possible. I heard what counsel said in opening statement about they take the position that they have abated this problem and they have addressed it. So I'm very interested in hearing what the Hawkins tell the court under oath about what they've actually done. We don't have any ill will towards these people. My clients don't have any ill will towards these people. And they've expressed that to me multiple times. They simply want to be able to enjoy their subdivision rights without noise disturbance. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. Desiree Goff representing the defendants, Sandra and Deborah Hawkins, Your Honor. Ms. Deborah and Ms. Sandra Hawkins are both present in the court today, Your Honor. Your Honor, going back to the order that was entered on September 19, 2023, Hawkins take that very seriously, Your Honor. They have done everything possible to abide by and comply with this court order. The defendants have abated the noise in accordance with the court's instructions. The court did not specify a manner in which to dispose of the animals. The defendants have done everything humane in finding these animals homes. There will be testimony that the defendants have flown a dog to Alaska. The defendants have driven the dogs throughout the Southeast to find them homes, Your Honor. There are the only remaining animals testimony will show are personal pets of the defendants. Your Honor, the Regalia Farms Estates restrictions that the order requested compliance with does not provide a limit on the number of dogs or cats, which may be pets, Your Honor, and the only remaining animals on the residence property are personal pets. There is no breeding business, Your Honor. It's defendants' position that they have done everything they are able to do to be in compliance with this court order entered on September 19, 2023. They've abated the noise as demonstrated by reducing the number of animals on the property. They only keep a limited number of pets on the property, which they also are prepared to testify to that they keep indoors in accordance with the court's order entered on September 19, 2023, Your Honor. Further, as stated by Tennessee courts in Caldwell versus Knox Concrete Products, 391 Southwest 2D at 910, with respect to noise in particular, no person is entitled to the absolute quiet enjoyment of his or her property. Neighboring landowners have animals, neighboring landowners have dogs. Your Honor, my clients are just requesting the same benefit of this land as their neighbors have, that they are able to have pets. They are demonstrating compliance with these restrictions, and they are requesting that this court find that they do not meet the necessary element of proof of willfulness for them to be found in either criminal or civil contempt. Criminal contempt has a higher burden of proof than civil. However, they do not meet either, Your Honor. And these individuals are not in violation of any city, county, or state code. And Your Honor, they are requesting that this motion be not denied. Furthermore, Your Honor, the request to hold them in criminal contempt would not solve any stated problem by plaintiffs. Placing the defendants in jail will not enable them to render any less barking on their property, Your Honor. They have already resolved this, and we request the court find so. In further regard to the motion for animal control to seize these animals, if we are addressing that in conjunction with the motion for contempt, we would request the court find that there is no jurisdiction, as no city, county, or state code has been violated, and the defendants are prepared to testify to the care that they have provided these animals and that it is more than adequate, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
The only question I have, Mr. Potter, is that my belief is that you cannot try both civil and criminal contempt in the same proceedings. It must be bifurcated because of the nature of the two. So do you elect to proceed on civil contempt, or do you want to proceed on criminal contempt only?
I'll elect on civil contempt, Your Honor.
we are only proceeding on civil contempt because of the different nature, the dual nature of those charges, as you pointed out. And my understanding of the current state of the law is that I cannot have a hearing on both criminal contempt and civil contempt. So, all right.
Thank you, Your Honor. And in regarding civil contempt, it is defendant's position as well that there are 4 elements of proof, Your Honor. There must be a lawful order. Second, the order alleged to have been violated must be clear, specific, and unambiguous. Third, the person to have violated the order must have actually disobeyed or otherwise resisted. And fourth, the person's violation of the order must be willful. That's citing Convalica versus Chattanooga Hamilton County Hospital Authority, Tennessee, 2008, Your Honor. And it is defendant's position that they have done everything possible. They are ready to put on proof of all they have done to be in compliance with the court order, and plaintiffs cannot prove the necessary willful element, Your Honor. Thank you.
For the record, I will state that when we had the hearing before, it was this court's finding that there was particularly a noise issue that operated in the with the operation of this breeding business that the court found there was proof of, and that there was, in my opinion, sufficient noise that it created a nuisance for the neighbors. So my order was an attempt to grant the respondents an opportunity to bring themselves into compliance with the Rosalia Farms Estates restrictions, and I tried to tailor it in a way to not be too restrictive. So we'll see whether or not there's been compliance with that order, and if that has not been done, then we'll deal with it accordingly, or I will make another order that will be more specific in any event. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bobby, can I call you first one?
I'm going to call Animal Control Officer Swaw. Since he's here, we'll get him out of here. Officer, and be sworn.
Step right up, please.
State your name, please, for the record, sir.
Austin Swaw,
And what is your position, Mr. Swaw?
Animal Control Officer.
Pull that microphone toward you, Officer Swan. Just, yeah, there you go.
Officer Swaw, how long have you been the Animal Control Officer in
About
Dixon County?
Around 3 years.
And you work for the Dixon County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay. And were you recently called to a complaint, to respond to a complaint regarding a noise or animal complaint at the Hawkins residence in Burns, Tennessee?
Yes, on November 28th.
Okay, November the 28th.
Yes.
Is that approximately a week ago, more or less?
Yes.
Okay. Who made that call to you?
I received it from the sheriff. He got the call from, I'm not exactly sure.
Was it a resident who made the complaint?
Yes.
Okay. And the address you responded to, was it 502 Trinity Lane in Burns?
Yes.
Did you interact at that time with any of the property owners at 502 Trinity Lane?
I did not.
Okay. What did you observe, sir?
I just walked around the property and looked at the welfare of all the animals.
Okay. And were you primarily concerned at that point in time about the welfare of the animals?
I was not. All the animals, according to our codes, they were abiding by the codes. They all had food, shelter, and water. All of them looked healthy to me.
How many animals did you observe?
Approximately between 25 to 30.
And were they kept in a pen outside of the house?
They were, but the pens were covered by all 4 sides. That's abiding by the law.
What do you mean covered by all 4 sides?
They have to have adequate shelter where they can get out of the weather. And not all 4 sides, I apologize, it's all 3 sides where the wind cannot get into them.
I see. So based on your investigation, did you observe any danger to the dogs?
I did not.
Okay. But you did observe 25 to 30 dogs?
I did.
Okay. Do you know what breed of dogs they were?
Poodles and some mixed breeds. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. Tell me how large this pen was that you observed?
The pins, they kind of varied. Some were like the normal kennel size, like 12 by 12s, and then some were probably about the length of the little podium back there.
Okay, so more than one pen?
Yes.
Okay. And were the pens on the same side of the house?
No.
Okay. Where were they positioned around this home?
So they had dogs on the far left-hand side, far right-hand side, and they had some in the back of their house, underneath their back porch.
Okay. Did you cite anyone for any violations?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you speak to the homeowners?
Did not. Well, I did over the phone,
Okay.
and basically told them that
Who did you speak with?
the defendant.
Okay.
Objection, Your
You
Honor.
know-
Hearsay.
I'm sorry?
Hearsay.
You are objecting to the conversation. Who did you talk to?
The defendant.
It wouldn't be hearsay, it would be an admission of a party opponent. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
overruled.
What was discussed?
I talked to her over the phone and explained to her that her animals, according to my law, are in abidance to the law, that there's no concern on my end.
In doing your investigation, you didn't observe any, did you observe any restrictive covenants in the subdivision?
I did not. We don't enforce that.
Okay. And do you enforce zoning violations?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Tender witness.
I'm sorry, Officer Swat, if you have a seat, we have questions from the other side.
Good morning, Mr. Swab.
Good morning.
I'm Ms. Goff. I represent the defendants, Your Honor. We have a few questions for Mr. Swab. You previously testified that you considered the animals to be well cared for. Is that correct?
Yes.
Of healthy weight?
Yes.
Their coats appeared healthy, clean?
Yes.
They had appropriate shelter, food, and water?
Yes.
Did you notice air conditioning and heating units in the shelters?
I did not. I wasn't able to witness that myself. I was told that it has by the defendant.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
For the court. Mr. Swa, I just handed you some photographs. Looking at these, do you recognize the photographs of, from your visit to the property?
I do.
Do these look like the shelters that you observed when you visited the property?
Yes.
Your Honor would like to admit these as exhibit number 1. Based on your understanding of fair treatment for animals, do you consider these to be adequate shelters?
Yes.
Thank you. These animals were reasonably contained within the premises of the private property at all times of your observation, is that right?
Yes.
You did not witness anything in violation of any code, ordinance, or regulation?
I did not.
From your observations, was there a problem with the noise level?
We don't enforce noise in the county.
Where do you enforce noise?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. And so then their only purpose for being there was to ensure the standard care of the dogs and their well-being?
Yes.
And absent violation of city code, county, or state, you do not have any jurisdiction to seize any animals, correct?
As of right now, no.
Right. Thank you very much.
Holly, you have any other questions?
No further questions.
Thank you. Now you can go, Officer Swat.
Thank you, Officer Swat, for being here. Oh, Miss McGill, is it Leslie McGill? Yes. Okay, Miss Leslie McGill. Miss Gill will be sworn. Ma'am, will you tell the court who you are?
My name is Leslie McGill,
Okay. Where do you reside, Ms. McGill?
504 Trinity Lane, Burns, Tennessee,
Where is your home in relation to the respondent's home, the Hawkins?
next door.
Okay. And are you a party to this lawsuit?
No,
Okay. And how did I come to know who you were in this case?
I think the commissioner got in touch with the sheriff, and I don't know if she talked to you or not, but
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
it,
It's not being offered for the truth, but we're just fine. Who contacted whom? I'll rephrase.
Overrule the objection simply because of the fact that it's not being offered for the truth of what's said in the statement at this point, but rather why certain actions were taken, so overrule.
Let me rephrase it. Did you make a complaint to your county commissioner?
yes.
Okay. Who's your county commissioner?
Cindy Gray, I think her name is.
To your knowledge, did Ms. Gray learn about this lawsuit?
She told me there was something going on that she wasn't quite sure what was happening, but she was going to check at the meeting. They had a meeting that night.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Again, it doesn't appear to me that it's being offered to prove what she said is true, but rather why certain things were taken, why certain things were done. Overrule the objection.
After you complained to your commissioner, did you receive a phone call from me?
Yes,
And you agreed to come here today voluntarily to testify?
yes,
Okay. Did you make a complaint about noise?
yes.
To whom did you complain?
I complained basically to Cindy about it, and that's how it got started, but I had complained previously to the animal control.
When you say Cindy, is that Miss Cindy Gray, your county commissioner?
Yes,
Did you also complain to animal control?
yes.
Or when did you make a complaint to animal control?
It was about 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
or 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Who resides with you at your property?
My daughter.
And can you tell me about your daughter? Does she have any health problems?
Yes, she does. She's disabled currently. She has severe health problems right now.
Okay.
She's had 2 major surgeries in the past 4 or 5 months.
And is she convalescing at your home?
Yes.
Would you please just use this opportunity to tell the court what your complaint is?
My complaint is the noise from the dogs. It's incessant barking. It has been incessant. I've lived there about a year, and we've heard this nonstop for about a year. And I wanted to move my daughter to the back bedroom because it's a larger room. She has she has a wheelchair and she has a walker and things like that. And I was hesitant because I knew she couldn't get any rest back there because my bedroom's on the back side of the house and I don't get any rest. So I eventually told her, I said, I'm going to have to move you because we've got to get you in a bigger space. So I did move her, but she keeps a fan running to kind of drown out the noise. And I couldn't do that because I have to listen to see if she calls for me. And so I was not getting any rest. That's why I called.
How loud is the noise?
Well, in my bedroom, you can hear them. It's just like they're like in my backyard.
Does it interfere with your sleep?
Of course, yes.
Does it interfere with your enjoyment of your home?
Yes,
Does it interfere with your daughter's recovery?
yes.
And have you moved her to another area in the home?
I did. I moved her.
And did I hear you say that you're using a fan to help drown out some of the noise?
Yes,
And you're running that fan to help muffle the noise?
yes.
What steps, if any, have you taken to try and prevent and remedy this?
Well, I haven't. I didn't want to call because I don't want to be, a bad neighbor. But I was told when we moved in there that I think it was Sandra told me the day I met her that she was going to be getting rid of the dogs. So I thought she was going to get rid of them and I wasn't going to have any issues. But that didn't happen.
How many dogs are there?
Lately, I've seen 6 adult dogs on the deck. And then yesterday, a friend of mine he's my ex-husband, he comes in to help me sometimes. He was walking and he saw the puppies on the side. I don't know how many there were, but there
Are
were
there
some
more
puppies.
than one kennel at the property?
Yes.
Is that a recent development where the kennels have been moved around the property?
I don't think so. I think they've been there.
So that's not something that's happened in the last couple of months, to your knowledge?
No.
There's more than, how many cages, I call them cages or kennels, what do you want to call them, are around this home?
I think there's like 3 maybe.
Are you good with directions? Do you know what side of their house your home is on? Is it north, south, east, or west?
I would say west,
Okay.
but I'm not good with directions.
Would you like the court to take some action to remedy this noise problem?
Yes. There's also an issue, I'm sorry, there's also an issue with flies. I mean, you can't even open the door without flies.
Question, Your Honor, speculative as to whether or not the fly's presence is due to any number of reasons on this agriculturally zoned land.
He's testifying as to, Mr. Potter, you want to make a response to that?
I think she just said there's a problem with flies. I mean, the court can take that for what it's worth.
I agree. Overrule the objection. She's just testifying that there is a problem with flies. The court will draw its own conclusions.
I'll tender the witness. Thanks, Ms. McGill.
Thank you.
The other lawyer may have some questions for you.
Cross-examine.
Ms. McGill, thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Ms. McGill, you mentioned that lately you've only seen 6 adult dogs on the deck. Is that correct?
Correct.
And have you lately noticed a decrease in noise?
Yes.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Potter? Ma'am, you may step down. Thank you. You may call your next witness.
Your Honor, we'll call Ms. Pam Duchesne. Hello, ma'am. Will you please state your name and would you please spell your last name for the court?
Pam Duchesne, Douchane.
Ms. Duchesne, you actually are one of the petitioners in this case. Is that true?
That is.
Where is your house situated in relation to the Hawkins home?
I'm directly behind them.
Okay.
I'm on Camp Ravine. I'm not on Trinity, so I'm directly behind them.
Okay. Your home, it would be on the same street as the Thompson's home.
That is correct.
You're a party to this lawsuit because I assume that you have a complaint to make. Will you use this opportunity to tell the court what the issue is?
Same as Ms. McGill.
Speak up just a little bit.
I'm sorry.
You can pull the base of that microphone toward you so you don't have to be right up against it. There you go.
Thank you. It's the noise. I can't even enjoy my deck outside my pool. We've been in the pool and my granddaughter, the dog started barking and it scared her. She went into, crying fit while we were in the pool. And I just, the noise, and again, I will attest to the fly issue too.
Is the noise loud enough for you to hear inside your home?
Yes. I can definitely tell you when they're feeding
Can
when they're going down to the pens.
you give the court some indication about what time of day you hear this noise?
So I work a lot, so I'm not always in the house during the day, so I can't tell you during the day, but in the morning, it's definitely early, 5:30 or 6. I can tell something's going on. The dogs are starting to bark, and they bark in unison. It's a very loud noise. I'm sitting in my living room, and I can hear them. I can hear them in my bedroom. But I sleep with earplugs, so
Why do you sleep with earplugs?
my husband snores.
Okay. Do you have anything else to tell the court about the dog issue?
I just think that it's not reasonable for the noise level. I understand I had a dog. I understand the love of dogs. I do, and love of animals, but not in a subdivision.
Are you asking the court to use its power to take some corrective action here?
I am.
Okay. I'll tender the witness.
Cross-examine.
Good morning, Ms. Duchesne.
Yes.
Ms. Duchesne, you are located next to the defendants, is that correct, your property?
our properties butt up to each other.
All right, and is it your understanding that the defendants have 5.2 acres or thereabouts?
I have no idea.
And how far would you estimate in football field lengths your house is? Approximately 4 or 5
No.
football field lengths?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's 4 or 5. I'm terrible with distances, so, but no, it's not 4 or 5.
How many would you estimate?
Maybe 2.
2 football lengths away?
Maybe.
All right. And you testified that you can hear when they're going to feeding, so that would be approximately 2 times a day when they're eating?
Again, like I said, I'm not there all during the day, but I can hear them in the morning.
Okay. All right, so 1 time a day. Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions?
That's what I'm not saying, that that's the only time I can hear them, because I'm not there during most of the day.
All right. Thank you very much. No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Potter, anything further for this?
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Let me call your next witness.
I'm gonna call Miss Angie Thompson for you.
Thompson, if you'll step around, raise your right hand and face the clerk.
Ms. Thompson, you testified in this matter in August, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're one of the petitioners in this case, is that true?
Yes.
Tell the court, just in your basic terms, has the problem gotten better?
I would say there have definitely been changes, and at times it's better. It is definitely different than it was in August. We waited patiently for the 30 days that the court gave. We thought that at the end of that 30 days that hopefully there would be big changes. That did not occur by the end of September. So we waited through October. I think we reached out to you several times to keep you posted on what was going on. At this point, there have definitely been changes and, like as I said, periods of improvement.
What time of day are you hearing the dogs now?
I hear them during the day most of the time. There have been some times at night, still 10, 11 o'clock, that I've heard them also.
Have you made some additional recordings?
I have.
Scott, I'd like to have just a second to connect my computer to the.
All right.
Stop this for a minute. Is this a video that you took?
No, that is a video that Pam Duchesne took.
All right, I'll go past that and I'll call Mr. Duchesne back.
Okay.
October 5th at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Is that your voice?
Yes,
Is that a video that you took?
yes. From my yard, my property.
How far is your house from the Hawkins property?
Um, everybody uses this terminology, football fields. I don't know. It's through the yards. It's probably a couple of 100 yards. I think we've said before, maybe 300 yards.
Okay.
If you're going the road, obviously it's a longer distance, but through the property there, it's probably no more than 300 yards.
I understand.
But that is on my property.
What time of day was this video taken?
I think I just said it was 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And I think if I remember correctly, that particular morning, it was early October, and we had anticipated that the problem would be taken care of within 30 days. I was working and heard all this through, my window, and got outside to film it. Went outside to film it.
As you can see, the dogs are still on the back side of the pen towards the house on Camper Bean Road and are still barking.
Ms. McGill, who testified earlier, is her house much closer to the Hawkins than yours?
I would say so, yes, definitely.
This video, was it taken since the last time we were in court?
Yes.
This is from my back deck, but I could walk to the back of my yard and get a closer view.
This is another video. Is that a video that you took?
Yes, it looks like so. Looks like it is, yes.
Play a little bit of it and I'll stop it and you can describe it.
9:15 from the front of my house.
Is this video taken since the last time we were in court?
Yes.
I think you just testified, Mr. Thompson, that it was at 9:15 from the, or not testified, but I heard you say 9:15 from the front of your home.
Yes.
Now, why is that important that it's from the front of your home?
Because in the past, we've talked about the noise from the back of our home. Obviously, there's noise at the back of our home, but it's also from the front. I mean, you can hear it on any part of our property. It's just that the back part of our property is closest to the Hawkins property, so it's loudest. But it can also be heard from the front of our property or from the other side of our house, which is the farthest from the Hawkins home.
Which is where my office is, and I came outside because of the noise that I'm hearing inside the office.
One more here, Ms. Thompson. I'll ask you if it's your video. Is that your video?
Yes.
Was this video taken since the last time we were in court?
Yes.
I'll play it a little bit and then I'll stop it.
Your Honor, defendants object to the last two videos. Witness has not stated whether or not these have occurred past the court's timeline for abating the noise, Your Honor.
I believe the first two, Mr. Potter asked her if this was before or after the last hearing, and she testified it was after. So your objection is to what?
Your Honor gave time for the defendants to abate the noise, Your Honor. We object on the basis that we do not know the date of this video and whether or not it was taken the day after the hearing or taken 2 weeks ago, Your Honor.
Well, I haven't moved them into evidence yet, Your Honor, so I'll ask her those questions.
It seemed to me that's a premature objection, so overrule the objection that's present until Mr. Potter attempts to introduce these as exhibits. And on this one, I mean, obviously the court's familiar with the time of year we're in, so it's clear from the video that the trees that were green in the first ones are now turned to a brown color and the leaves are on the ground, which leads the court to form an opinion, at least, that maybe it's been recently rather than in August, but we'll let Mr. Potter address that issue.
Ms. Thompson, the objection is whether or not these videos were taken more than 30 days since the last time we were in court, because they had 30 days to comply. Those first two videos that we saw, were they taken more than 30 days since the last time we were in court?
Yes, and that's the reason that I did it, because as I stated earlier, we had the expectation that 30 days after we were in court and the order was issued, that this issues would be resolved, and they weren't. And so I went outside and videoed these to demonstrate and show that they had not been taken care of.
This video that we're watching here, was it taken more than 30 days after we were in court the last time?
Yes.
All right, I'll continue to play it. Is that a video from the back of your house?
Is it of the back of my house? From the back of my, I think that's from the side of my house.
The barking that we've heard on these videos, is it a fair representation of what you hear throughout the day?
Yes.
Are you asking the court to take some corrective action for this problem?
Yes.
Do you have any ill will against the Hawkins?
No, not at all.
Does the noise interfere with your enjoyment of your home?
Yes, it does.
The defendants were given 30 days to abate the problem. Is the noise still interfering with your enjoyment of your home?
I would say, in all honesty, not at the level that it was in August, but it does still exist.
Okay. Thank you. I'll tender the witness.
Mhm.
Your Honor, I would move to introduce into evidence the 3 videos that she authenticated. And I have those on a thumb drive. I'll provide them. I intend to call Ms. Duchesne back to the stand to authenticate the first one, so I'll just wait and tender the thumb drive after they've all been.
Right.
Thank
May cross-examine.
Good morning, Ms. Thompson.
Good morning.
Yes, and you mentioned just now that the noise is not near as much as it was previously. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and would you say it has decreased substantially both in time of day and in decibels?
I would say there have been changes, and then at periods of time, it seems there have not been. So, I would say that it's not as 24/7 as it has been for years, but it still does exist.
And before the court today, this last week, the noise level is substantially lower than it was in August. Is that correct?
Over the past few days, there have been changes. There is a difference. Yes.
All right, and over the last month, there have been changes. Is that correct?
More so in the past week. I would say that as we have approached this date, there have been changes.
And prior as well, now, the court order was entered September 17. So let's say from the videos, the trees are changed. Would you say that was around September, early October that you took those videos?
Well, in the first 2 videos, I stated that it was October 5th.
Okay.
So
And
we were
then
in court.
following-
We were in court, I think, August 24th, and our expectation from that date was that I believe they'd had 30 days to make changes, which would have been the end of September.
And you understand the court order was entered September 17?
I wasn't sure of the exact date.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Any further?
I don't have any more questions. I'll ask the court to take judicial notice of the order. The order itself says respondent shall have no more than 30 days from August 24, 2023 to bring their property within compliance with the Ridgelea Farms Estate Section E restrictions. I have no further questions.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Call Miss Pamela Duchesne back briefly, Your Honor, just to authenticate a video.
Objection, Your Honor. Witness was already called and released from testimony.
That would make a difference if the rule had been requested, but rule has not been requested, so therefore I will rule the objection.
Also a party to the case, Your Honor. So,
I would remind you that you've been placed under oath and you remain under oath.
do you recognize this video before I play it, Ms. Duchesne?
I do.
Did you take this video?
I did.
Do you know when you took this video?
I don't remember the exact date,
Okay,
but I believe it was in September.
okay. Are we looking at your backyard?
We are.
Is this noise that we're hearing representative of the noise that you hear often?
Yes.
Is that your swimming pool?
It is. And I know it has to be the end of September because that's when we had it closed, so it has to be toward the end of September.
Appears to have a cover on it.
It does.
So, before your pool was covered, when you were out there enjoying your pool with your family, did you hear that?
Yes. Yes, that's what I was saying earlier, that we were in the pool with my granddaughter who was about 10 months old or so when we had her out there, and the dog started, it scared her. We had to take her out of the pool.
I have no more questions for Ms. Duchesne. Thank you.
No further question, Your Honor.
I'd like to move for admission this thumb drive, post 4 videos on it.
Ms. Duchesne, you cannot state with certainty that that video was taken past the 30-day timeline from the court order, can you?
Again, wasn't the court order the end of the 28th August?
You were in court in August 24, so you cannot state with certainty that that video was taken past September 24, can you?
Not with certainty, no.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
We have one final witness, Your Honor. I'm going to call Ms. Jones-Smith. Will you tell the court what your name is, ma'am?
Joan Smith,
Okay. Ms. Smith, where do you reside?
1248 Camp Ravine Road in Burns, Tennessee.
Where do you reside in relation to the Hawkins home?
We live, our front faces Camp Ravine, therefore our back faces we're kitty cornered to Trinity Lane. We live next door to the Thompsons and our backyards face the same way.
Would your home then be approximately the same distance from the Hawkins home as the Thompsons home?
Exactly. Give it and take about 50 yards,
How long have you lived in your home?
13 years.
Okay. You're a party to this action, is that right? Why did you choose to be a party to this action?
Because the noise level got to be intolerable. It's been going on for several years, but it's just gotten worse in the last year. My husband is not well, and the noise really bothers him. We spend a lot of time in our kitchen dining room at the table or whatever, and that faces dog pens, and so the noise is substantial most of the time.
Can you hear it inside your home?
Oh, yes. We don't go outside because my daughter fixed our deck for us, fancied it up and everything, and we can't use it because it's just constant.
Well, this case was in court on August the 24th, and the court ordered that the defendants had 30 days to remedy this problem. You're aware of that?
Yes,
So in the last couple of months, are you still experiencing a problem?
yes. It's not, there are times when it's not as severe as it was before. There are periods of quiet occasionally, but sometimes it's just as horrendous as it was in August.
Are you asking the court to use its power to take further corrective action? I'll tender the witness.
Good question.
Ms. Smith, good morning. Thank you for coming out here this morning.
You're welcome.
Now, you agree that you don't live next to the defendants, is that correct?
No,
All right, so you are multiple football fields away, is that correct?
not multiple, maybe two.
And you agree that in the last several months, the noise levels have declined substantially, is that correct?
No, not substantially. There are periods when the noise level has declined, but I'm up late at night, and sometimes it's just as bad as it was before. Occasionally, there are times when it's quiet, and my husband and I commented on that, but it's not consistent.
Now, you stated that for years this has gone on, but however, in the last 3 months since the court hearing, it has decreased, is that correct?
Yes, somewhat.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Have nothing further from Ms. Smith.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Thank you.
Potter,
And I have no further proof. That's our proof.
plaintiffs have rested their proof. Does the defense wish to offer any proof?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense call Ms. Deborah Hawkins to the stand, Your Honor.
Hawkins, if you'll come up.
Good morning, Ms. Hawkins. Please state your name for the record.
Deborah K. Hawkins,
What is your address?
502 Trinity Lane,
How long have you lived there?
5 years.
What is your understanding of the court's order in this matter that was entered on September 17, 2023?
That we are to decrease the noise from the dogs.
What efforts have you engaged in to abide by this order?
Immediately upon receipt of the order, I have reached out to every local humane society and reached out to all of my personal and private contacts. I work at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, so I've listed dogs for rehoming with multiple colleagues. I have asked my daughter, who was living towards Knoxville, to post flyers at all the local Tractor Supply and similar type stores, noting that we have animals for rehoming. I have had several colleagues take in animals to foster until they could find a new home, so to reduce the noise as quickly as possible, since it wasn't possible to find homes for all the dogs in 30 days. I have, do you mean who else I've reached out to? I mean, I have had dogs rehomed. A woman, I reached out through several different Facebook groups. I've had posts on Craigslist. I've put ads at the local, like local Tractor Supplies and stuff, noting. I've put ads on like puppy finder type websites, on the web. Basically anywhere I could think of to advertise with my personal and professional contacts. I've sent, I made a PDF up of all of the dogs for rehoming that had all their basic information about when they were born and their basic characteristics, so they could find an appropriate home. I think that in terms of where they've gone, we have one of the dogs was rehomed to Alaska. One was to Washington, D.C. Several have gone to a service dog organization in Florida. I've tried, it's very hard to rehome dogs in this current climate, and it wouldn't be appropriate to have them all live in the house immediately, so I have tried to rehome them to meet the order.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may approach.
Yes.
Do you recognize the documents you were just handed?
Yes.
What are these?
These are some of the places that the rescue and other organizations that we reached out to try and rehome the animals.
Your Honor, we submit these as Defendant's Exhibit 1.
We don't do them as plaintiff or defense, we'll just mark them in order, so that would be
Thank you,
number
Your Honor.
3, 2, 3.
Number 3, thank you. Ms. Hawkins, when did you start making these efforts to rehome these animals?
Immediately upon leaving court.
How many states would you estimate you've traveled to take animals for rehoming?
Well, it's been a family and professional colleague affair, so not just me, but also family and friends have taken dogs we've met people who were coming from Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia. I think I mentioned Alaska. I met the person and they flew the dog to Alaska. We did not drive to Alaska.
Are you charging for these animals at this point, or are you?
No, we are just trying to find them appropriate, humane homes.
Have you paid organizations to take these animals?
No.
Where all have you posted advertisements?
Well, in the puppies.com, local shopping network, the Tennessean, the paper, and another dog site that's Hobley Classifieds, one that I think is called Pet Finder. Those are the places we've posted ads. Also on my personal Facebook, I've sent people pictures of dogs to forward to try to help them find homes.
And what remaining animals do you have on your property?
Only pets inside the house.
You no longer have any juvenile canines or puppies, is that correct?
No, we don't have any. We even rehomed, I understand there were 2 stray cats who had come to live at our house. They had been dumped there. And so we got them spayed and neutered, but they had been always outdoor cats and they were listed. So we also rehomed them
Where are the remaining animals kept on your property?
in the house.
How are these animals fed?
With dog bowls,
How frequently do you feed them?
once in the morning and once in the evening. Although some of the dogs just have food down all day, so it just depends on the day. But sometimes if they're just in our room, they can just eat and drink whenever they care to.
And you are not paid for these animals. These animals are your pets.
Correct.
And at the time of purchasing the property, you were not aware of any restrictions on it. Is that correct?
I was not.
Do neighbors come and shine lights on your dog kennels located on your property after dark?
That has been a new feature, yes.
How many times would you say that's happened?
I've had people taking videos from nearby or driveway, or other times at least 5 to 10 times in since we were in court last.
And where are these dwellings located on your property?
The kennels,
Yes.
the property is 5 acres and our house sits towards the east side of it. And the kennels are to the west side of the property. Basically somewhat, the kennels are close to the fence line at the north side of the property. They're closest to that side of the fence line and they're over towards the west.
About how far would you estimate these dwellings are from your property line?
Towards the north property line, a short distance, like no more than 100 feet from the north property line. From the east property line, which is where Camp Ravine Road is, I would estimate at least 300 yards or more.
Your Honor, if I may approach.
You may.
Do you recognize the photographs, Ms. Hawkins, that you were just handed?
Yes,
What are these photographs of?
my pets.
And how many of these do you currently have?
7.
These are well cared for, well maintained indoors, is that right?
Yes.
And are these as Exhibit 4? No more questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Potter, you may cross-examine.
Ms. Hawkins, I'm Tim Potter. I represent the petitioners. You were not here in August, is that true?
That's correct.
Miss Deborah Hawkins was here. Is that right?
No, that Sandra Hawkins was here. I'm Deborah Hawkins.
You're Deborah Hawkins, okay.
Yes, sir.
Is Miss Sandra Hawkins your spouse or?
Yes,
Okay. She testified in this case, is that right?
yes.
I'm confused by your testimony today. Are these dogs kept inside your home or in kennels?
These dogs are kept 100% inside my home at this time.
Okay, since when?
Since probably the last 2 weeks or so. Basically, what we've been trying to do is rehome all of the dogs and that we could. And since then, I mean, they go outside to go to the bathroom. They go outside to play, but they are sleeping indoors, living indoors, you know, those things.
Obviously, you heard Animal Control Officer Swall's testimony that he was on your property 1 week ago and he identified 25 to 30 animals.
I did hear that, yes.
Are you saying that that's incorrect?
I think there were 20 at the time. And I think that when he did come, all of the dogs that live inside were outside playing outside. And there were a few over in the kennels that have now been rehomed.
How many total dogs do you have on your property today?
7.
7 total dogs.
Yes, sir.
Those are both adult dogs and puppies.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You do recognize that we've made an allegation to the court that at one time you had 15 adult dogs and 30 puppies. Is that accurate?
Probably, I don't count them in that way, but yes, that sounds accurate.
And you were operating a breeding business from your home. Is that true?
No.
You were selling these dogs, right?
Most of this is a hobby activity. That's not my business.
Do you recognize that your spouse testified at the last hearing that in 2023 you had sold about 10 dogs for $400 a piece?
In 2023, we did not sell 10 dogs for $400 a piece.
And you understand that that was a finding of the court?
Can you explain what that means, sir?
The temporary order that was entered in this case following the August hearing said in paragraph 4, the respondents are operating a puppy breeding business on their property. The respondents admitted selling 10 dogs in 2023 at a price of $400 per dog. That's what the judge found.
Are you sure that it wasn't in 2022? Because that wouldn't be accurate for 2023.
You're still selling dogs, right?
No,
You're not?
that's correct.
Passing you a Facebook post.
Uh-huh.
Is that in fact a Facebook post that you posted?
It is not?
That is not something you posted.
No, sir, I did not post this.
You're Deborah Hawkins, is that true?
That is correct.
And Sandra Hawkins, is this her Facebook page?
It is her Facebook page.
Are you aware of her posting this post?
I am aware that she's posted a number of different places. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's just read it and I'll ask you some questions about it.
Sure.
As some of you might know, others not.
Objection, Your Honor. This is, the witness has not authenticated this document. This cannot be entered into admissibility, Your Honor.
I'm not moving for it to be admitted, Your Honor. I'm going to ask her some questions about the facts in this post. I'm happy to call Ms. Sandra Hawkins as the next witness.
Well, this witness has identified it as a post by the co-defendant in the case, so therefore it would be, again, a statement of a party opponent, so overrule the objection.
Thank you. Let's read the post, please. As some of you might know, others not so much, we're being forced to get rid of our fur babies because there are people who don't like us breeding. And stop there. You've been breeding. Is that true?
Yes, we breed dogs, but that's not for profit.
Okay, let's continue. We no longer have the rights to do what we want on our own property. It's truly mind-blowing and heartbreaking. We have less than a week to find a home for these fur babies, or the court will have them taken all to the pound. These babies deserve much better than being mistreated by the system. Please help me find them new homes. We're willing to drive and meet up within reasonable distance, asking a small fee for the poodles to make sure whoever gets them can properly groom them. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
So you are still selling the poodles?
If you would like to call recouping the expenses that we've paid for the vet selling, you may do that.
I'm
We've-
referring to you giving a product, a dog to someone, and them giving you money in return. Are you still doing that, ma'am?
I don't know how to answer your question, sir.
How about truthfully?
I am answering it truthfully to the best of my knowledge, sir.
When you give dogs to a third party, have they given you money for those dogs?
Object to form, Your Honor.
Pardon?
Object to form.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Not sure that I understand the objection, but overruled.
Leading, Your Honor.
Pardon?
Counsel is leading witness, Your Honor.
Cross-
As is cross-examination counsel, so he's entitled to lead the witness. So
Your Honor, we object on the basis that counsel is badgering witness as well, Your Honor. Witness has already sworn that she is saying everything truthfully, Your Honor.
this is cross-examination.
You've given dogs to people and they've given you money in exchange for those dogs,
They have
correct?
covered the vet expenses only. There has been no attempt for profit, only to find them a good home that's safe for them. There are people who use free dogs for dog fights. It's been a very difficult process to rehome these dogs, given that the majority of the shelters and rescues have told us they are not accepting any animals and will not accept animals. So while we've been now successful to reduce our numbers to the 7 that are in the house 100% of the time, which is what I understood, it has taken us longer to get there. And I fully admit that it has taken us longer to get there and still find safe homes for these dogs. But we've attempted to be in compliance at the quickest moment we could.
What's the most dogs you've had on your property at one time?
I think the number when we first went to court.
And that was around 45 dogs.
Agree, yes.
Okay, you do understand that your spouse testified at the last hearing that there were between 12 and 15 dogs on the property.
Because when you're talking about dogs and puppies, she thinks of things differently. Like some of these puppies are
Puppy's
this
not a
big.
dog.
Well,
What's your definition of a puppy?
typically, a puppy would be an animal, in my mind, under a year old that is not capable of reproducing. A dog would be a full-grown animal in how I think of things. So when you talk about puppies, for example, some puppies might be this big.
Do you have plans for any further corrective action?
I don't know what further corrective action you seek.
Well, you've testified under oath that you now only have 7 animals on your property,
That live 100% indoors, yes, sir.
100% indoors,
That go outside only to go to the bathroom and play.
and that's your objective, is to keep no more than 7 animals in your home all the time.
Well, my objective is to keep pets that are in my home all the time. I don't have an exact number that I had in mind. It's my understanding that the remedy that the court sought was to not have dogs barking outside. And that my understanding was that the judge asked for us to remedy things, and one of the proposed remedies was to keep the dogs living indoors, not living outdoors. And so that's what we've sought to do.
Do you recognize and agree that you've not been in compliance with the subdivision restrictions in your neighborhood?
I was not aware of the subdivision regulations until you brought them to us in court.
That's the first time you read them, right?
That is correct.
And do you recognize and would you testify that it's reasonable for these citizens, these neighbors of yours, to come to court in order to correct this problem?
I don't know what is and isn't reasonable. I would have thought knocking on the door would have been a first reasonable step. I also do not agree that the noise is constant, and we brought videos at our prior hearing that were not admissible, showing the long periods of time that the dogs are not barking.
You think the noise that you heard on these videos that have been played in court is reasonable, that neighbors should have to endure that type of noise?
I
that your
think
opinion?
that those are short periods of noise, and I think that the periods of duration have been, those are clips that are a couple minutes long. Usually the duration it takes to go out and feed and water the dogs, which is when they tend to make the most noise.
Okay. So your testimony is that that is only for a short duration. You do agree, however, that the noise that we heard is not appropriate.
I do, and having it brought to our awareness, which I was previously, as I said, had anyone ever knocked on my door and said this was a problem, it would have been addressed outside of court. I don't seek to annoy my neighbors, but their remedy was to take me to court, so here I am.
You've received letters about it, right?
I received an anonymous letter stating that basically that breeding was an immoral activity and it should stop, and that it was bothersome, and that I was a bothersome neighbor. It was anonymous. There was no one to address with it. I am surrounded by people in a neighborhood. I would not know who had this problem to address it. I honestly thought, given that it was anonymous, that it was to be thrown away.
Well, in addition to whatever anonymous letter you're referring to, you also received a letter from my office prior to a lawsuit being filed asking you to take corrective action. Is that true?
It asked me to stop my breeding business, and I don't have a breeding business. I enjoy dogs, and this is a hobby. You had several allegations in your letter that I just simply don't think are true.
You ignored it.
I didn't know what to do with it. Honestly, I've never been directed by the court to do anything in my life.
You ignored it, right?
I looked at it. I wouldn't say I ignored it, no. I looked at it. I didn't know what to do with it. I asked my parents what to do with it. They said, wait. So I did.
You have had a breeding business on the property, correct?
I do not have a business, sir.
Listen to my
A
question.
business is something that you make money from. I don't make money breeding dogs. It's a hobby. I
Have
take
you-
care of cancer patients during the day, and it's very pleasing to play with dogs in the afternoon.
Have you and your spouse breeded dogs and sold them?
Not for a profit, sir. That seems to be the confusion here. We spend so much money on all of the taking care of these dogs. This is something we do because we love them and enjoy them. And we didn't know it was bothering the neighbors.
All right, so I understand the semantics that are being played here. Someone
Well,
asked
you're
you-
using the semantics, sir.
Your testimony, I think, is that you have sold dogs for money. You just haven't made a profit.
That is correct.
And so therefore, it's not a business. Is
By
that
the
your
IRS
argument?
definition of business, sir, that is correct. Had I tried to file it on my tax return as a loss, I would be audited. And they would say that I can't count a loss for a hobby against my income from my profession.
So have you ever reported on your income tax return any income you've received from the sale of a dog?
Objection, Your Honor. This goes beyond the claims and defenses in this lawsuit, Your Honor, and this is not relevant.
Respectfully, Your Honor, it's cross-examination and.
I don't know what this has to do with the
Ma'am,
noise
when
level of my
Ma'am,
dog, sir.
when there's an objection, you just need to be quiet while I address that, okay?
Sure.
Mr. Potter, you were saying, I'm sorry.
Ms. Hawkins, have you ever
No,
claimed?
wait a minute, we're still on
I'm
the
sorry,
objection.
I thought you told me to go ahead.
If you want to respond to the objection, objection is it's outside the scope of this lawsuit. However, I think that the question, we are dealing with somewhat semantics. And it becomes an issue of exactly what was the purpose of this operation of it being. Why were you breeding dogs?
So my wife had a traumatic brain injury, and after which we could not afford a service dog. So we started breeding to try and raise a service dog for her. And we actually bred and raised up and trialed several different dogs to act as a service animal because she gets vestibular migraines and to alert for. And you probably know this, but service dogs tend to cost fully trained like 60 grand. So we started raising from puppies and training different dogs, several different candidates to try and get one who would have the ability to work in the capacity as a service dog. Once we started doing this, of course, that means there are some dogs that aren't suitable for service dog candidates. So we then found them family homes. And it was something that we enjoyed doing. You know, I know that there's a restriction in place now in our neighborhood, but when I looked it up, I saw that it was, you know, if you have over 5 acres, it's zoned agricultural. And I thought we were in compliance with all, you know, laws and licensure and things. And I did it because honestly, I really like dogs, and my profession is somewhat serious, you know, and so having the levity of puppies and playing with them and doing all of that. Also, we have our youngest child has a significant some developmental delays. And one of the things her doctor said that was the most important for her is for her to kind of like engage in doing activities, you know, so like taking care of dogs is something that she's helped out doing that has helped her hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. So we did it because we liked it. And then there were people that got really excited, you know, because they would meet her dog and say, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. I wish I could get a dog like that. And so we were just breeding, and we kept a list of people who wanted dogs. And when it came up, we would rehome them whenever we had a litter.
You understand that looking at the photographs, you have outside cages that are very, very commercial looking. In other words, I've had dogs all my life, and I love dogs too. There's one sitting in my home waiting for me to get home today. But all I'm saying is that the operation appears to be a commercial operation when you look at the structure of the cages and so forth. And I guess my question had been, I know we talk about semantics about whether you were doing it commercially or not, but the question is you were breeding, and you were breeding more than just an occasional litter of puppies. You had multiple litters of puppies, correct?
Yes, sir. Like I said, people got really interested in it, and it sort of, at the time, not long after my wife's traumatic brain injury, she couldn't work, and it gave her something to do, you know, to stay, like, you know, there was a period of time where she was not capable of working.
How large
She
is
can't.
your house?
It's, I think, 4,000 square feet.
And you have 7 dogs, you and your wife live there, and your daughter lives there as well?
2 daughters, yes.
2 daughters.
Well, 3 right now are living there.
All right. So all of you are residing inside that same house?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But as
I'm going
mentioned,
to-
I will not have them be outside any longer.
I'm going to overrule the objection that was made based upon, it goes to the credibility of the witness regarding the questions Mr. Potter is asking about the commercial nature or whether it was actually a hobby. So, Mr. Potter, you may ask your question again.
Question was, have you reported any of the income that you've received from the breeding and sale of these dogs on your income taxes?
No, sir. I have kept track, and we have net a loss every year.
And do you understand that your spouse testified at the last hearing that dogs were being sold for $400 a dog?
Dogs have been sold on average for $400 a dog, yes. I read that transcript, yes, sir.
And you don't have a business license?
No, although we did look into whether a business license was necessary, and it was neither necessary for the USDA or the state. And we do have documentation of that.
And your testimony is that you don't have any intention of doing anything else to follow the court's order. In other words, the court asked you to abate this problem within 30 days. Is it your position that you've now done everything that you need to do?
Unless someone tells me we haven't. I thought that the request was to abate the noise by keeping the dogs inside and as their, main issue. I don't know if we've also started dismantling the former kennels where they were outside, as clear indication that we do not intend to have them outside any longer.
When did you start doing that?
About a month ago.
You understand that as of a week ago, you had several kennels outside.
I didn't say we dismantled them all. I work full-time. I've just taken down a couple of them, honestly.
How many did you have?
Well, 3. And, but there's panels that go into it, and they're kind of heavy, so I just took down parts of them at a time.
All right, thank you.
Redirect.
Your Honor. Ms. Hawkins, would you agree that the care, the veterinary expenses, the feeding of each animal far exceeds $400?
Most certainly, just the initial vet visit is, for each dog, at least a quarter of that or more.
And you were not aware that you were in violation of any restrictive covenants, is that right?
I was not.
All right. And you have, since the court order on August 24, done your best to remain in compliance with that court order, is that right?
Your Honor. Object to the leading.
Staying, the difference when it's your witness,
What have you done since August 24 to be in compliance with the court order?
Well, honestly, every day when I come home from work, I've been working, this has been like my second full-time job, because the biggest thing is that due to COVID, there were a lot of people who took on animals that they couldn't manage. And so then they have all dumped them upon the shelters and the humane societies and other things. So those places are full right now. And everyone that thought they wanted a dog got one during COVID. And so it's been very challenging to get all of these animals rehomed, even for free. Nobody wants dogs right now.
Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
anything further, Mr. Potter?
Other than to mark as an exhibit the Facebook post that I had the witness, you mark that as the next exhibit.
Mark this the next exhibit.
And we sustain our objection, Your Honor, regarding that exhibit.
Overrule the objection, it'll be marked as an exhibit. Ma'am, you may step down. You may call your next witness. Actually, let's take our mid-morning recess. We'll stand at recess for 15 minutes. Gil, I would remind you, you remain under oath.
Gil, as His Honor said, you're still under oath. It's a couple of refreshers. You live in the house adjacent to the Hawkins. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. You heard her testimony. Miss Deborah Hawkins testified that they now have 7 dogs and they're keeping them in the home. Do you have any information to offer the court regarding your observations in the last few days?
Yesterday, my ex-husband, who came in to help me with my daughter, was taking a walk and he saw puppies out beside the house.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection.
You can't testify to what someone else said to you. Have
Your
you observed?
objection is to hearsay. Mr. Potter is
Say
sustaining
it's
your objection.
speculative. The
I
witness
agree.
did not.
Yeah, I agree that you can't testify to what someone else told you.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
well, I didn't see them myself, but I've seen the dogs on the deck.
Okay. And when
And-
have you seen the dogs on the deck?
I saw them today, or no, yesterday.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I thought it was her personal observation.
No further questions, Your Honor.
When you saw, you said you saw the dogs from your deck today?
No, I saw the dogs on their deck.
On their deck. How many did you see?
I saw 6 adult dogs.
And what, was that a problem for you if those dogs would just goes out occasionally?
No, but one time they, maybe not these dogs, but some dogs from there came to my house and came in my garage. And one of them was seemed a little aggressive. I wasn't afraid, but I didn't know if it was going to do anything.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may stand down.
I have no further rebuttal proof.
Right. Does the defense have any other rebuttal proof?
No, Your Honor.
Then I'll hear you an argument.
Your Honor, regarding the motion for contempt that we filed, the proceeding under civil contempt, Your Honor made certain findings by order in August that was later entered in September, and that order found that the parties were conducting a breeding business on the property. Your Honor found that they were selling dogs. Your Honor found that the actions of these respondents had violated the subdivision restrictions, Section E of the restrictive covenants. and Your Honor gave them a certain amount of time, 30 days, to abate that problem. They have not done that. We've got some very credible witnesses that you've heard from the community. Ms. McGill, Ms. Smith, Ms. Duchesne, Ms. Thompson have all testified that the problem is still an unbearable problem. It's intolerable. It's causing them problems. Ms. McGill, who's not even a party to this action, has come forward to confirm that she lives adjacent to the Hawkins, and she has a daughter who's convalescing from serious health issues. She's had to move her to a different area of the house. She's had to use a fan to help muffle the noise of the problem. More importantly, you heard from Animal Control Officer Swaw, who's very credible. He has no reason to come into this court and manipulate any of the information before the court. And he's testified that a week ago, 11/28, they had 25 to 30 dogs on this property. That's very credible. I know Miss Deborah Hawkins has testified too that they now only have 7 dogs that are in the home. That simply is not to be believed. And if it is to be believed, what they've done is they've hidden the dogs. They've moved the dogs in anticipation of this hearing, and we're going to be right back in court trying to address it again because they've not taken the orders of this court seriously. The testimony of Miss Deborah Hawkins today is not credible. She's tried to play semantics about whether or not they've had a business and not sold the dogs because they've not made a profit on the dogs. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would submit to Your Honor, a business that doesn't make profit is still a business. And the court's already previously found that they were conducting a business of breeding dogs on the property. She didn't bother reading the subdivision restrictions on the property, and they're in violation. And so I don't know how the court addresses remedying this. I'm asking the court to hold them in civil contempt. And civil contempt, as Your Honor's always known, means that they have the key to the jail. They can purge themselves of the contempt. And if Your Honor gave them a certain period of time and said, you're going to remove these dogs from the property, they just simply have to be removed from the property. They cannot be outside. There cannot be a continuing noise problem. And so how do we check that? I don't know how we check that. I would submit Animal Control Officer Swall is still here. He's a county officer. The court could order that an officer go back to the property in so many days to go monitor and provide information about whether or not they're in compliance with the order of this court, so that they simply haven't removed these dogs and brought them back to the court. Here's what's one of the things that is so concerning about this is the last time we were in court, Miss Sandra Hawkins testified. And Miss Sandra Hawkins testified, in my recollection, that there were between, I think, 12 or 15 dogs on the property is what she testified to. But we now know that that was not true. We now know that at that very time, they had about 45 dogs on the property, 15 adult dogs and 30 puppies that they're saying could be 1 to 2 years old. That's 45 very loud dogs, and that's been confirmed today through the testimony of Miss Deborah Hawkins, and it's consistent with what the animal control officer is still telling us. So it's a problem, and I don't know, I hate that these parties have to keep coming back to court to address the problem that they did not create. And in addition to that, I'm asking Your Honor to order that the Hawkins reimburse my clients their reasonable and necessary attorney's fees. We asked for that in our motion, and we're asking that the court order that. That should be ordered because these parties, these fine persons, Ms. Smith, Ms. Duchesne, etc., they're having to incur attorney's fees to my firm to come back to court to ask this court to do something that should have already been done. And I would ask that I be permitted on their behalf to submit an affidavit to the court and to opposing counsel of my fees and itemization of those fees, and counsel be given 10 days to object to those fees, but the fees be awarded to the petitioners in this case. Regarding the motion to compel, I think counsel makes a reasonable argument that there was not a written notice sent to her about the deficiency in those responses. I would just submit to Your Honor that we will pass our motion to compel to a later date, and that this motion itself be deemed compliance with the local rule of notice of deficiency, and just they can take notice of it, and I'll reset that motion to a later date. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. We are here on defendant's response to the motion for contempt, Your Honor. The court order specifically provided that the respondents must abate the noise. The court stated that the court did not care how it is done so long as it complies with the applicable restrictions. That is referring to the Ridgelia Farm estate restrictions, Your Honor. The Ridgelia Farm estate restrictions that the court discusses in its orders, specifically number 1, 12, and 20, state no animals other than pet cats or dogs are allowed. That's number 12. All dogs and cats are to be confined to owner's lot. Your Honor, there is no restriction on the number of pet cats or dogs contained within these Ridgelia Farm estates restrictions. Furthermore, we've heard testimony today from the plaintiff's witnesses as well as the defendant's witness that the noise levels have abated, that there is evidence of compliance with this court's order. Your Honor, whether a particular level of noise constitutes a nuisance depends on a variety of circumstances. Among those relevant circumstances are the locality, the character of the neighborhood, the nature of the use causing the noise, the extent and frequency of the injury, the time of day when the noise occurs, and the effects on the enjoyment of life, health, and property to those affected by the noise. Numerous witnesses of plaintiffs testified that the noise has lowered and receded since the court's order in August. Furthermore, Ms. McGill just testified that she only witnessed 6 dogs. Defendant Deborah Hawkins testified similarly that they now have a limited number they contain within the household in compliance with this court's order. The court stated that suggestions, not limited to selling the dogs, transferring the dogs to someone else, or keeping the dogs inside. The defendants have removed a number of animals from the property, a far number, at least 6/7 of the original, Your Honor, have been removed from the property. At this time, defendants put before the court that they are in compliance with the court for those reasons. Furthermore, defendant Deborah Hawkins testified to beginning the process of dismantling the kennels. Your Honor, these actions are in compliance with the court order and do not demonstrate the requisite willfulness necessary for a finding of civil contempt. They have done everything possible, Your Honor, to comply with this court order, contacting numerous rescues, kennels, as well as pet finder boards, online applications to distribute pets. They've reached out to colleagues. The testimony showed they reached out to colleagues. These dogs have been relocated throughout the U.S. Your Honor, they have done everything possible to find homes for the remaining animals. And based on that, the defendants do request this court find that the plaintiffs cannot establish the necessary willfulness for a finding of contempt. Your Honor, we put forth Robinson versus Hydraulics Engineering Company, that's 214 Tennessee 30, Tennessee 1964. While the power to punish for contempt may and should be used in appropriate cases, it should not be used unless the case clearly calls for its exercise, and such power should be exercised only when necessary to prevent actual direct obstruction of or interference with the administration of justice. Defendants have put forth evidence today, Your Honor, that they are not obstructing with the administration of justice. They are in compliance with the court order. They have removed these animals. They are keeping the remaining animals indoors as pets, and they request that Your Honor deny this motion, deny any request for fees made by plaintiff's counsel as well, Your Honor. And in regards to the motion for compel, defendants do not object to the notice. Defendants simply request plaintiff's counsel provide further information regarding additional requests for production of documentation sought on the motion to compel, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Potter?
Nothing further.
Let me first say that this is not a case where the court in any way, shape, form, or fashion faults someone for loving dogs. I've had dogs since I was a little boy, and I've had them almost my entire adult life. And I had a dog one time that became a problem dog, and I had to make arrangements to get that dog out of the area because I had neighbors that became aggressive, and I had neighbors that had small children, and they tended to walk through the yard. So out of safety for those children, I got rid of the dog that I cared a great deal about to protect those children. Point of that story is this. All of us have a right to utilize our property and the land that we own in a way that we want to, until our exercise of our property rights butts up against the rights of our neighbors to have peaceful enjoyment of their own property. And that's really what the law is that the defendants have a right to utilize their property as they see fit until the utilization of that property and the method by which they utilize it begins to then interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of their surrounding neighborhood. For example, if they decided to play loud music all hours of the night out in the neighborhood, that would be another example of it. So I think everyone involved in this case, even the witnesses, have dogs or animals, and they don't fault it. This court held a hearing back in August, and at that time I made certain findings, and those were set forth in the temporary order. And those were that the court was familiar with the residential area, and that's the other thing. This is not in the country, so to speak, as you might explain. It's not sitting on a farm, situated on a farm out in the middle of the country. This is in a residential neighborhood, an improvement that has residential restrictions. And whether the defendants rather did or did not read those residential restrictions at the time they purchased the property is not relevant. They exist and they're bound by them, by the fact that they purchased the property subject to those residential restrictions. The neighbors who live around them, many of them were owned their property prior to the defendants purchasing the property. And the residential restrictions clearly specify certain things, and among those is that if they're not to have a commercial business or operation, the property shall be used for residential purposes only. Number 12, all dogs and cats are to be confined to the owner's lot and not to interfere with the peace and enjoyment of the neighbors. So while counsel for the defendant points out it doesn't specify how many dogs you can have, that's true. You can have one dog. But if that dog interferes with the peaceful enjoyment of your neighbor's property, you're in violation of the restrictions. When you buy a property subject to the restrictions, you adhere to them or you agree to them, whether you read them or not. Number 20 is no commercial business will be housed or operated either permanently or temporarily, excluding developer operational sites, sales, and construction office. Looking at these photographs, clearly those photographs show what this court finds to be somewhat of a commercial operation, more than just a hobby type situation. And whether we talk about whether it was a hobby or whether it was a commercial business venture, is academic, is semantics. These defendants were breeding dogs and breeding large number of dogs and then having those dogs out in the yard, and according to the audios and video that we heard in August and again today, those dogs interfered with the peaceful enjoyment that their neighbors had of their property. So, court entered an order back in August that basically found those to be the facts, and that I found that they were operating a puppy breeding business, and whether they were making money on it or not is not the issue. It could have been a hobby. There are a lot of hobbies that constitute business. Fact of the matter is that you don't have 25 or 30 dogs and puppies that you're breeding, and then say that basically that's just because you love dogs and so forth. This court is of the opinion that the testimony of the defendant, Ms. Sandra Hawkins, at the prior hearing in August was more likely to be accurate than the testimony of Ms. Deborah Hawkins today, and that it was some 10 dogs sold for $400 a piece, and that constitutes, in this court's mind, a business. It doesn't have to be a very profitable business to make it a business. And the evidence of the photographs of the cages and so forth clearly indicate it's more than a hobby and more of a commercial business venture. So the court found that and ordered that the respondents shall have not more than 30 days from August the 24th to bring their property into compliance with Ridgelia Farms Estates Section E restrictions. The respondents must abate the noise by said deadline. The court does not care how it is done so long as it complies with the applicable restrictions. Suggestions by the court include, but are not limited to, selling the dogs, transferring the dogs to someone else, or keeping the dogs inside. It is further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that failure to comply with this temporary order may result in an order of contempt by this court. Pardon me, and it goes on to say, and further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that any matter not addressed by this temporary order is reserved pending further orders of the court. So, now what we have before us is the testimony of Animal Control Officer Swan, who on November the 28th, just a week or so ago, went to the property in response to a complaint and observed 25 to 30 animals. November the 28th was more than 30 days from August the 24th, so there's no question that these animals were not there. These videos that have been introduced clearly show that the noise had not abated as of the date of 30 days from the entry of this order. Therefore, the court does find that there's been a violation of the court's order and that the defendants are in willful contempt of the violation of the court's order. Sanctions are not, in this court's opinion, necessarily an appropriate remedy. If this court takes the position that they have made some efforts and they've tried to do that, and the defendants, Ms. Hawkins in particular, takes the position, well, we've done a lot, we've tried to get rid of them. Whose fault is it that there were these numbers of dogs? And that's another example of why this is such a bad idea to have this in a residential neighborhood, because you're trying to give these dogs away and you can't do it. And you're right, shelters everywhere are overrun because of puppy mills, and you see on the news every so often where conditions are such, dogs are found, multiple dogs are found in what we call a puppy mill. I'm not saying this was a puppy mill, but I am saying that it was a irresponsible action on the part of these defendants to start a breeding operation in a residential area that generated this number of dogs. And now we have a problem with, I love dogs. I hate to see dogs mistreated, and to try to dispose of these dogs, and as pointed out, there are a lot of people who will take, free dogs and then they'll abuse those dogs in some way. So my concern is only to try to end the noise problem that exists in this neighborhood. The noise that was demonstrated by these videos today might be appropriate if I walk outside on my farm and I hear dogs and I hear coyotes everywhere. But that's not the same as living in a residential neighborhood with restrictions, and you hear the dogs as demonstrably as Ms. Duchesne's pointed out. She can't even enjoy her pool or her back deck because of this noise. So court does find the defendants to be in civil contempt the court is going to reserve any sort of imposition of sentence on this because it's been indicated that they are still trying to resolve the issue and that they now have 7 dogs only, and that those dogs are still in the house, and that they're going to be allowed. If you're going to have 7 dogs, that's fine. That's your choice to have 7 dogs in the house with you, your spouse, and your children. I've had dogs.
Game changer.
And it would be kind of hard for me to imagine that, but that's your choice to make. In any event, the fact of the matter that you have 7 dogs, if you turn 7 dogs out into a yard and in an evening or whatever to let them play, as you said, and they start, barking, then we're in the same situation we've always been, whether it's 7 dogs or 25 dogs. It is the noise that arises from that situation. So you're going to have to do something to ensure that those dogs don't disrupt the neighborhood peace and quiet and enjoyment of your neighbors. But I don't choose to impose any sort of sanctions at this time, Mr. Potter, until we see whether or not this is going to resolve it, because some of the witnesses have said the noise has been abated. So I'm going to set this matter for a hearing and a review of the situation. And I realize it causes everyone to have to come back, but I'm going to set it for February the 15th. Give them a couple of months to see how this situation pans out. Now, I intend for this noise abatement, this noise problem to be abated. And I think you're trying to make efforts. I don't agree with everything that you've said as being forthcoming, but I understand you're trying to bring yourself into compliance, and you say you've got 7 dogs. Well, those 7 dogs cannot be allowed out in the yard in the evening or during the day that's going to disrupt your neighborhood. So you're going to have to find a way to deal with those dogs so that it does not do that. And we will then see what happens in February between now and then. And Mr. Potter, you're free to file whatever is necessary from today forward if there are further problems. But my other option is to order that you have to sell those dogs that you have, or you have to dispose of them, or have them put down. I don't want to do that. I want you to have the dogs you want to have, or to give them a good home. But don't push me into a situation where, because it's still creating a neighborhood problem, that I have to take more punitive action. I don't want to do it, but I will do it if I have to. And so we'll see between now and February if the neighborhood peace and quiet can be preserved. If not, we'll take more draconian actions at that point in time. I will reserve the issue of the request for attorney's fees until that hearing in February. And I hope that that will resolve the issue, and then we can only address whatever costs that might have been involved in it and not have to do anything further about punitive action. That is the judgment of the court. Mr. Potter will draw the order, and I will ask that you submit that to counsel for the opposing party.
Yes, sir, I'll do it. Thank you.
We had Mr. Atchison here a moment ago, I think. Is that correct? What happened to him?